So if you have not already opened up your Module 10 Lesson 1 Course Arc and Notebook, if you could do so now while we're going through our startup. So what we're going to be going through, kind of like what we talked about yesterday. Hi, Kylie. We're looking at current issues, HIPU, legislation, policies, and Nevada politics. We're comparing and contrasting U.S. Constitution and Nevada Constitution. We're looking at the 3 branches in Nevada versus federal, right? So our bell ringer today it's National Make Lunch Count Day. How are you going to celebrate your lunch today? Hi, Brooke. What are you guys going to do to make lunch like kind of more than just sitting at where you guys are, like wherever you're doing your work? So for me, I have a desk in my office where I just kind of sit here all the time, right? And I just saw Analia and Gabriel and a few other people popped in. Hi, guys. Magdalene. So what are you guys going to do? How are you going to make your lunch kind of count today? Are you going to do something special? Make something? Yes, Will? One of my students last period said that they were going to have like a picnic with their friends and have kind of lunch out, like, on the grass. So I thought that was kind of good. Another student said, oh, you know what? I think I'll make a sushi bowl instead of just a regular sandwich. A couple of other kids said normally they don't eat lunch, so that today they would try to remember and like make it a point to have lunch. Hang out with your dog and enjoy lunch? Absolutely. So my thought process was step away from wherever you do your schoolwork. 20, 30 minutes. There you go, eating ramen noodles. Just step away from it, right? Maybe if you have an opportunity, go outside for a few minutes, it's kind of nice out. Do something a little bit different. Make it your like kind of step away, take a breath. Being out in the sun actually does a lot for your social and emotional well-being. It kind of revitalizes you. So maybe taking a few moments, some fresh air, something, right? Make that time period count. Doesn't necessarily have to be about eating. It could be about, just taking the time. Okay. All right. So we are going to get through questions. Well, we did 1 and 2 yesterday. So we are going to finish 3 through 7, 8, 9, you're going to do on your own. I've got the review sheet, which is also in the live session page. I've got a Kahoot review that I want to be able to get to. And then I've got a video that talks about how Nevada owns less than 20% of our state. Okay. So while you guys are opening up your notebook and your course arc, let's just review. So we did the essential question. Your vocabulary, remember, this time again, you had to create self-created definitions to get your full credit. When we get to the Constitution, there are 9 sections that need to be filled out. So make sure you get all 9 sections filled out. You're comparing and contrasting Nevada Constitution to the U.S. Constitution. On the state government, there are 9 sections. So we're talking about different positions, what those positions do, and who is currently in those positions. So if I see Sisolak as your governor and not Lombardo, it tells me you guys are not doing what you're supposed to do. Okay. And then there are 6 questions following that you also need to answer. So it's the chart and the questions. In the second part on Learn Local Government, give me 2 positions and explain 3 different things that they oversee. I'm getting a lot of stuff that I have no clue what you guys are doing, but you're not telling me 2 positions in our local government. I chose 2 positions because it actually gives you a link to Clark County. That's the local government you're supposed to be specifying. And then public services, there's a chart in all these different public services, who fulfills those public services locally and what do they do. Google Maps, we have 5 spots, 1 to 2 sentences each. We haven't done that in a little bit. Your journal entry, if you'll notice right here, 3 full paragraphs. Guys, I'm getting 1 paragraph from everybody that have been turning these in. You notice a paragraph is all the way over here. And answering the essential question, 1 full paragraph. Okay, so now that we've gone through our rubric, remember, before you submit your journal, it's right there at the bottom there. Double check, okay? All right, so I'm going to hope at this point that everybody has their course arc open and has their notebook open. So in the Constitution, we talk about federalism and how the power is split and yet shared between the federal government and the state governments. Remember this? Kind of, we're digging back in the first semester, right? We know that, like the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land for our country, state constitutions are the supreme law of the state. It outlaws how the state is going to be governed. It is subordinate to the U.S. Constitution, but it basically lines out, like, these are the departments, this is how it's going to be ran, legislative, executive, judicial, like civil rights, the structure, powers, any kind of change, different provisions. Definitely, state constitutions are much larger than the federal constitution is. Nevada's constitution is structured similarly to the United States, with 3 branches of government consisting of an executive, legislative, and judicial. And then you click on this link, and when you click on the link, it literally takes you to the Nevada Constitution. Okay, we'll come back to that momentarily. And then we have a video here that just kind of talks about the Constitution. And then we'll go to our notebook. Okay, so I'm going to play the video.
We're back, and we're going to give you the 5-minute guide to the Constitution. First, the U.S. Constitution, written over 220 years ago, remains the foundation of our government and guides those who run our nation to this day.
Let's take a closer look at how the Constitution designed the organization and function of our American government.
Okay, the Constitution starts out with the preamble, and what this does is it describes the purpose of government and the principles that guide the rest of the document. So, for instance, it talks about liberty, democracy, and common good. If you're interested in learning more about the preamble, check out our quick guide to the preamble by clicking there.
Article 1 of the Constitution establishes the legislative branch. It's the branch of government that is responsible for making laws. Basically, it turns the citizens' wants and needs into laws, and in there establishes a representative democracy.
Article 1 also sets up the organization, the qualifications of legislators, as well as the frequency of elections. So, for instance, in the Senate, you have to be 30 years old, a citizen for 9 years, and live in your state. There are 2 per state, and they're 6-year terms. However, in the House of Representatives, you only have to be 25 years old, citizen for 7 years, living in the state. Based on population, okay, it's 435 right now, and you have 2-year terms in the House of Representatives.
Powers of Congress, some of the most important ones: collect taxes, borrow money, pay off any debts that the U.S. has, make rules for citizenship, regulate commerce, declare war, and one thing that we'll get into a little bit later in the year, make laws that are necessary and proper to carry out the powers that are listed above, also known as the Elastic Clause.
Article 2 is the executive branch. This is the branch that enforces or executes the laws. The President of the United States is the head of this branch, and this article also describes the qualifications of president, the powers of the office, impeachment, as well as the electoral college system and how we actually choose our next president.
Powers of the president, probably number 1 would be commander-in-chief at the head of the military, maintain a cabinet of advisors. You see in the photo there, the president's cabinet. Pardons treaties, appoint ambassadors, and Supreme Court justices, which is always a huge media event when that takes place, and make sure laws are carried out.
Article 3 is the judicial branch. Now, this branch interprets the laws, and their main job is to decide what the law means, as well as whether that the government has been following the laws that have been established.
Article 3 creates our Supreme Court. It also allows Congress to create other federal courts, which deal with federal laws, not state laws. Judges are appointed. We don't elect federal judges. They're appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate, and they serve for life.
The Article 4 talks about state powers and how they can enforce their laws and how they deal with other states. So, for instance, some of the interactions that are described are how they respect laws of other states, how they respect other court decisions, and also extradition. So if a fugitive escapes to one state, how do you deal with that? Where does it get tried, and things of that nature.
Article 4 also deals with how new states can be admitted to the U.S. with the authorization of Congress and the President. Remember, we started out with 13. We've grown all the way to 50. Article 4 outlines that process. The only requirement really, make sure that you have a Republican form of government.
Okay, so no state dictatorships.
Correct.
Everyone has to have a democratic state government. Okay, Article 5 talks about the amendment process. That's how the Constitution is changed. There are two ways to do it, but the one that's mostly used is the first step, which is to propose an amendment. That's needed by 2/3 of both houses of Congress. And then to ratify the amendment, that means to approve of it and make it official, you need 3/4 of the state legislatures. If that happens, you have a change to the Constitution.
Article 6 tells us that the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. This means that if there's a conflict between federal law and state law, federal law will always win. It requires state and federal government officials also to take an oath to support the Constitution as well.
And lastly, Article 7 is about ratification. It said 9 out of the 13 states were needed to approve of it. And during the debates afterward, they decided that most people wanted more specific rights granted in the Constitution. So they said, okay, if you sign this, we're going to add the first 10 amendments, which will list these rights, and that's going to be called the Bill of Rights. So our first 10 amendments today were a compromise to try to get more states to sign the Constitution, which was eventually done. All right, guys, there you have it.
All right, so that was just like a quick review since we haven't looked, at the U.S. Constitution in a little bit, right? So in our notebook, let's go to the notebook. It asks you to make some comparisons, and we're comparing the Nevada legislature to the federal legislature, right? And examining the Nevada Constitution to the U.S. Constitution. And so it gave us some examples, right? Legislative branch is divided between a Senate and an Assembly in the Nevada Constitution. In the U.S. Constitution, legislative branch is divided between the Senate and the House of Representatives. Both constitutions have a legislative branch with 2 houses. That's the comparison, right? And there are so many things that you guys could have done and you can still do. I just did it this way. It was just a quick and easy one. So the number of assemblymen and senators for each county is actually set in the Nevada Constitution. And they set it out. Here's the specified amount that you're allowed to have. In the U.S. Constitution, we did set that every state would have 2 senators. But remember, the representatives is based on population, and we get that from the census every 10 years. So what is the comparison? How can we compare the two? Both constitutions, both the state constitution and the federal constitution, saw a need for multiple representatives, having some set, having some based on population, but they realized that every state in the U.S. Constitution needed to be represented. And in the Nevada Constitution, they realized that every county needed to be represented. Okay, so we'll do, I guess we'll just Control C and then Control V. And there's the first one. The second one, so in the Nevada Constitution, state senators, these are the people who go to Carson City, who represent their counties in the state of Nevada, serve 4-year terms, and assemblymen serve 2-year terms. On the federal end, now these are the people from the states that go to Washington, D.C. and help govern the country as a whole. Senators serve 6-year terms, and representatives serve 2-year terms. Okay, so what is the comparison? Assemblymen and representatives both serve shorter terms than the state and national senators. That was what I got from there. So we will put this into the chat. And then finally, the Nevada legislature meets biannually, meaning they meet every other year. The U.S. Congress meets continuously. Okay. So the comparison, Nevada only meets every other year or more if they get called into action, whereas the U.S. Congress meets continuously. Okay. Now, can you come up with all kinds of different things? Absolutely. I did see some students, though, try and compare the articles to amendments, and articles and amendments are two completely different things. So they lost points on that. So make sure if you're talking about amendments, you're talking about additions to a constitution, it has to be amendment to amendment. If you're talking about articles, those would be the sections, then it has to be articles to articles. Okay. All right. So that's that part. Let me move on. Let's go back to our course arc. So state and local government, Nevada was established as a territory separate from Utah in 1861. It was rushed into statehood because of the Civil War. President Lincoln was focused on maintaining the union of the states. On October 31st, 1864, President Lincoln officially signed the act making Nevada the 36th state in the union. That's why we are called the battle-born states. Nevada's constitution provided for 3 independent branches of government: the executive, legislative, and judicial. So we know in the executive, we have a governor, a lieutenant governor, a secretary of state, a state treasurer, a state controller, and the attorney general. The executive branch also includes the Board of Regents for the Nevada System of Higher Education. So they deal with all of our higher education. That's all of our colleges and universities. The faculty, facilities, and curriculum for the state's colleges and universities. So the first thing that we have to do, well, actually, before we go back to that, let's talk about the next one. So we talked about the legislature, right? It's made up of the Senate and the Assembly. Their main goal is to pass laws to govern the state of Nevada. The legislature functions similarly to Congress. They introduce, debate, and approve new state laws and evaluate, revise, and repeal laws that are no longer necessary. They're responsible for approving legislation that will set the state budget. So they're not worried about the federal, they're just worried about the state of Nevada. School funding, necessary appropriations for the next year. The state constitution specifies that the total number of legislature, both the Senate and the Assembly, cannot exceed 75 members, like combined. Members are elected from and around the state in legislative districts. Districts are redrawn every 10 years after the U.S. Census is taken. And then we have a quick video talking about the Nevada legislature. We'll watch that in a moment. And the Nevada Supreme Court is the Supreme Court for the state. Jurisdiction is then divided between district courts and justice or municipal courts. There are 11 district courts that make up the general jurisdiction courts for the district courts within the state of Nevada, and they serve the 17 counties throughout the state. In the justice courts, there are justices of the peace that determine whether a felony or a gross misdemeanor case has enough evidence to go to a district court for trial. Justices also oversee non-traffic misdemeanors, small claims, traffic cases, and the municipal courts hear all of the like city ordinances, traffic violations, etc. Okay. The Nevada Constitution states that there are legislative numbers that cannot exceed what? What is the answer to that? Anybody tell me? How many people total? We just looked at this.
75.
75. Good. Thank you. All right. There are how many counties in the state of Nevada?
17.
Thank you, Will. And the head of Nevada government is called
I believe governor.
the governor. Good. All right. Does everybody have this done? I need a response, guys. Thumbs up, something. I need to know that you guys got this done. All right. So let's go to really quickly the video because it's going to help with one of the questions that you have.
Oh, here's a fun fact, you guys. I graduated from college in 1996. One of our new legislators was born in the year 1995. It's one of the cool stories to come out of this first day of the 2019 session. In fact, two things fallen here in Carson City: gavels and all this snow. The 2019 legislative session started with snow. Lots and lots of snow and one snowman. Blizzard or not, it was time to punch the clock for Nevada lawmakers. While there was a chorus of plowing and shoveling outside, pomp and circumstance inside. Today is a celebration. Handshakes, hugs, and selfies. The hard work starts tomorrow. Battles over education, healthcare, and taxes will come soon enough. The 80th session of the Nevada legislature looks far different than the 79 which preceded it, with Nevada becoming the first state in U.S. history to have a female majority in the state house.
It's incredible to be a part of this historic moment in Nevada history where we have the first female majority in the United States. This isn't just Nevada history, this is American history.
Selena Torres is 23, the second youngest person to ever serve in the Nevada legislature. Torres represents the new wave of Nevada leadership, young, female, and minority.
I think back to my dad, who came to this country with so little. He came with a jean jacket.
It's just not, they're not playing like they should. Let's go to the notebook. So in the notebook, there's, of course, the blue link. Click on the state of Nevada site to get all of your information. And so the positions were already labeled in here, right? So we have the governor, much like the president of the United States. The governor is the chief executive of the state, right? He basically, everything he does is in response to running the state itself. So there is number one in our chat. All right, so just like we have a president, we have a governor. Just like we have a vice president, we also have a lieutenant governor. So helping Joe Lombardo, our new governor, is Stavros Anthony. And he is the assistant governor. And basically the whole point of or lieutenant governor, I should say, is to help the governor govern the state, right? He's the president of the Senate, much like the vice president is there. Are you seeing some ties there? Okay, give me just a moment though, okay? Hold on just a second. Sorry about that, guys. So he's part of the governor's council, much like the vice president helps the president. That's what the lieutenant governor does. So that's okay, Aiden. That's okay. I'm having some wonky connections too. All right. So question number 3 is Secretary of State, and that is Francisco Aguilar. Highest ranking official in the state behind the governor and the lieutenant governor. They are elected to a 4-year term. Their job is basically to maintain the official records of the act of the Nevada legislature and of the executive branch as prescribed by law. What I've noticed on some of these that I've been seeing is I'm not seeing things that have to do with the state. I'm seeing like federal secretary of state. Remember, this is state government. So if you have federal information on your notebook and you lost points from it, go back and double check and fix that, please. All right, our state treasurer. So obviously, treasurer, we're talking about money. They deal with basically the banking for everything dealing with our state. Our treasurer is also in charge of overseeing all of the scholarships and college funding that we have in our state, and that's Zach Koning. Number five, our state controller, that's Andy Matthews. And so as state controller, basically they are in charge of our accounting system, if you will. Like they're the one who like processes all transactions. So if the state has to write checks, it goes through the controller. They're the ones who actually do audits. They make sure that everything that goes through the state financially complies with our Constitution and federal laws, etc. They're kind of like a CPA, right? They're like the accountant for the state of Nevada, if you will. The Attorney General for the state of Nevada, which is Aaron Ford. Andy Matthews. Yeah. Aaron Ford is much like the Attorney General for the federal government in that they are the chief law enforcement officer for the state. It is their job to investigate and prosecute crimes at the state level. They combat fraud and corruption. So, for instance, when my identity was stolen and I had to file all kinds of, craziness, I went through my police station, right, which was right around the corner for me. But ultimately, everything from that ended up going through the Attorney General's office. State senator. Now, this is the other thing that I've noticed. I am getting people putting our federal senators in here. No. The state senators are the people who are there to govern the state of Nevada. Okay? These are the ones who meet in Carson City and come up with laws to govern the state of Nevada, not the ones that go to Washington, D.C. So if you gave me federal senators, you lost this entire row, okay? So the idea is introduce, debate, approve new state laws, responsible for approving legislature that will set the state budget, school funding, etc. What I have here, and I'm going to put this in the chat, is a link for you guys to look up who your exact state senator is. No, it didn't. So yeah, just find your state senator, click on that link, put in your zip code, and you can find out who actually represents where you live. So much like the state senator, the state assemblyman, kind of the same thing. They are there to govern the state of Nevada in Carson City, not Washington, D.C. Just like the House of Representatives, they have a shorter term. It's a much faster turnover. They only serve 2-year terms, just like in the federal government, whereas the senators have longer terms. And then finally, the Board of Regents. And so they are in charge of managing higher education programs, faculty, facilities, curriculum of the state colleges and universities. I chose Byron Brooks only because he is the one who represents Clark County. So they all represent each one of the districts, right? District 3, which generally tends to be each of the counties. And then Byron Brooks is also the chair, right? Any questions on that part? I know I've gone through it like really, really fast. Anything? Okay, so the next part of this is also the 6 questions that are also part of this. So why was Nevada rushed into statehood? Because Abraham Lincoln needed a free state to keep the Union together during the Civil War. So I'll put that in our chat. The next question is, what is the primary responsibility of the executive branch of Nevada? carries out the laws, programs, services, and policies of the state. So everything that the legislative branch basically enact, the laws that they pass, it's up to the executive branch of the state to make sure that all of that is done, if you will. So we'll put that in there. How often does the Nevada legislature meet? So they meet every other year. It's called biennially. And they meet for 120 days total. Put that in there. And so it says, what are the duties of the Nevada legislature? Pass laws that govern the state of Nevada. Ultimately, that is the big thing, right? Just like our Congress, they are responsible for approving legislature that sets, in this case, the state budget, school funding, necessary appropriations. So Congress passes laws that govern the United States. Nevada legislature passes laws that govern the state of Nevada. Okay. The state constitution directs the legislature to conduct 3 additional duties. What are they? So they are also directed by the state constitution to establish a state university, a public school system, and a statewide uniform system of local government. And that's in your chat as well. And then the last one, what do the legislators do when they are not in session? So unlike our congressional members in DC, like their full-time job is being senators and representatives, state legislatures actually have jobs outside of this. A lot of them are like university professors. And in fact, Dina Titus, who is now a representative in DC, was a state senator when I went to UNLV. And so she was one of my professors, in addition to being a state senator who helped pass laws for the state of Nevada. They also have committees that they sit on, and they meet outside of legislative sessions to get together as needed. All right, let's move on to the next. I know, guys, there's a lot of this we have to get through today. So we're talking about local governments are broken into cities, towns, boroughs, villages, etc. So like, what does each one of those mean? It just kind of varies from state to state. Clark County, which is the one that we're talking about, runs on a commission form. Clark County Commission has a responsibility of overseeing services within the jurisdiction of Clark County, which is what the next one is about. So let's go back to our notebook. All right, so it says view the government structure of Clark County, choose 2 different positions and explain 3 different things that they oversee. So I'm going to open this up because I want you to see this page. Positions: county commissioner, county manager, chief administrative officer, chief financial officer, assistant county manager, assistant city manager, those kinds of things. So hang on just a second, guys. Give me just a moment. I'm going to put what I pulled as my 2 and put those into the chat. I'm going to give you guys just a moment. Okay, so the two positions I chose, Chief Financial Officer, and then three different things that they oversee. So as Chief Financial Officer, they are in charge of finance, which is the county budget. Human Resources, looking at budgeting for all the employees for Clark County. And then County Treasurer, which is really in charge of like property taxes, right? Which makes sense, right? Chief Financial Officer, that's three things that they oversee. As Chief Administrative Officer, that person is in charge of elections, so they handle election sites, ballots, etc. They're the public guardian, they deal with residents' health and safety, and they are in charge of the county clerk, which deals with marriage and business services. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Instead of, I don't know what some of you guys were putting in here, but I was really confused by what you were putting in there. So that's number 5. Let me go back to here. So the city of Las Vegas, like most cities and small towns in Nevada, the city of Las Vegas runs on a varied council manager form and combines the political leadership of elected officials and an appointed city manager. The people elect both the city council members based on wards and then the mayor in an open election. The city manager is appointed by the city council. City council is in charge of all policy, while the city manager is in charge of running the day-to-day operations of the city, along with the department directors and staff. So let me bring this here. Before we get into that, we've got, like, it's like 5 things to know here. So let me click. Hopefully this will play.
Hello, everyone. It's David again with the things to know from the December 4th City Council meeting. Up first, the City Council approved a 6-month temporary license for Mansion 54. This is the old Heartland Mansion on South 6th Street. This is an event space, and over the last several months, there have been a lot of complaints about this property, including an unauthorized marijuana party. City Council understands that the place is under new management, new ownership, so the council is giving that new owner 6 months to turn things around. One of the conditions, they'll have to keep the noise confined to the property. Also, the City Council got a full report from Brad Jerbick on the sale of the historic Hunt Ridge Theater. Brad is our city attorney, and he said an escrow account has been opened, and escrow could close by as early as June 24th. In addition, the City Council got a report from me on changing public communications and how the city is trying to keep pace with those changes. To give you an idea, this year alone, we've received more than 44,000 inquiries on social media and another 60,000 on our website. Far different from the days when people used to pick up the phone or even send you an email. Also, all of our television programming on KCLV Channel 2 is now on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. Next, the City Council got a report from Mike Jansen in Public Works and Jerry Walker in Operations and Maintenance. They talked about the city's vast infrastructure network, from streets to sewer lines to fields to traffic lighting. Some of our facilities date back to the 1960s. We have a traffic light operating since 1965, and some of our sewer lines date back to the 1930s. Of course, the idea here is to figure out how long those facilities will last and making sure that they stay in tip-top shape. And finally, the City Council got to honor Canine Hunter. He's the Metro Police dog that was stabbed in the neck several weeks ago when he and his handler were involved in making an arrest. Good news here, Hunter's made a full recovery, he's returned to duty, and he and his human partners were honored by the City Council today.
All right, so let's pause that. So the questions we have: in local governments in Nevada, the voters can vote in all of the following except. So which one of these do they not vote in? Mayor, city council, heads of city departments, and commissioners. Which one do we not vote for? Come on. Yep, heads of the city departments. Good. All of the following can be found within a local government. So what are all of these part of local government? Everything but region. Good. All right, so Public services. This is question number 6. So we're talking about education, public welfare, public safety, highways. When we're talking about education, we're talking about both, like universities, colleges, as well as all of the school districts, so K through 12. Public welfare, like public health programs, public hospital, immunizations, different types of programs for like unemployment, housing, disability, etc. Public safety, so that one we can look at both police departments as well as fire departments. And then of course highways, which they have to work with the federal government in regards to any highways that cross over state lines. So if we go to the chart for question number 6, so each item on here, it's service, what is the name of who provides that service, and then it says what is their mission or vision statement. Okay, so I just picked some. For fire, I picked Henderson Fire Department, and literally they have a very long mission statement. It is to protect and preserve the lives and property of the residents and visitors of the city of Henderson from damage or loss due to fire, medical emergencies, environmental hazards, and traumatic accidents. That is a mouthful. For education, I just generically chose CCSD. Some students picked their actual schools, and that is fine as long as you're able to give me the vision statement or mission statement from the school. CCSD's mission statement is CCSD students will have the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and ethics necessary to succeed academically and practice responsible citizenship. For energy, I chose Nevada Power. You're kind of getting the point here, right? So each one of these, and all you do is you just go to their site and you just pull up their vision statement. For the hospitals, I chose Henderson Hospital. You could have chosen maybe UMC, Desert Rose. I don't know. Pick one of the hospitals. Okay. For health, that one's pretty standard, I think, across the board. The Southern Nevada Health District, because that covers the entirety of Southern Nevada where we are located. Transportation, there's a lot of things you could have chosen. I did RTC, Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, so you have that. And so you just click into every one of these and you look up their mission statement. All right, we need to go to the Google tour. And you have to click on the blue link to look at the Google tours. So each one of these is where you're going to get your information to put in the actual notebook, right? So like location A would be state, and they're talking about Carson City as the capital of the state of Nevada. Location B is county. Obviously, where we live, Clark County is one of the 17 counties in the state of Nevada that serves over 2 million residences. Let me come back. C, you know what? I didn't even hit this. So state, Carson City. B, county, Clark County. Location C, city, Las Vegas, established in 1905, incorporated in 1911. For township, you could use Paradise, Nevada, which is an unincorporated town within Clark County next to Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Paradise is governed by the Clark County Commission, and it receives input from the Paradise Town Advisory Board. And then the final one, village, you could do Incline Village, which is a small village in the North Shore of Lake Tahoe. Okay. So in our notebook, oops. See if I can get this to all go in here. I don't know if it's going to fit. Okay, it only got to D. Let me say township. Okay, this last little bit didn't go over. All right. And then, of course, like always, we have where we're like literally each one. So the description would be Nevada. So we know Nevada is, oh my gosh, a state. The capital we know is Carson City. A city would be Las Vegas. A township would be Paradise. And then the village would be Incline Village. Does everybody have that? Yes, thumbs up something. I need to know that you guys have this. Okay, the only independent city in Nevada is, which one, guys? Carson City. Good. All right. So the journal, talking about tax expenditures by type. And the question that you're talking about is, do you think the mining industry should pay more in taxes? Why or why not? Okay. We know one of the largest industries in Nevada is the mining industry. Gold mining makes over $6 billion per year and pays about $35 million in taxes. The Nevada Constitution was written by the miners in 1860s. They wrote into the Constitution a 5% cap on mining taxes. So an increase in mining taxes would help alleviate budget issues for the future. And of course, you have this link on the NPR discussion to help you answer your journal prompt. Remember looking at the rubric. This is the one that you need to give me, if you want the full marks, 3 full paragraphs. I did not answer this in the notebook. I am leaving the journal and the answer to your essential question up to you to complete. And so, of course, the last one, our essential question is, how does Nevada state government differ from the federal government? So at this point, your course arcs are done. If you have not hit submit on the course arcs, make sure you do so. And then you just need to finish answering your journal and your essential question, and then you need to turn in your notebook. All right, so your review is in the live session page, and we just don't have enough time to do the Kahoot, but I'll put the link in tomorrow's announcement if you guys want to go play the Kahoot on your own. So due tomorrow is the course arc, the notebook, and the quiz, as well as your attendance assignments. And then tomorrow morning from 10 to 11:45 is our small group meet. Are there any other questions, guys? I know I flew through that because it was a really long one, but we needed to kind of get it done. We're all good? All right, Aiden. All right, guys, we're done for the day. Have a good lunch. And if you need help, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody. You too, Will. You too, Aiden. Bye, Boo.